Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of How to Build a Game Studio, the podcast by us at Winterborn. I am Trevor and I'm here to intro this episode. This episode we recorded before E3 this year, so it's coming out the week of E3, so we haven't heard what's happening. We talk a little bit about the things that we'd like to see coming out of E3 this year, and that sort of thing. Hopefully... we're going to have Kent talk about his time at E3 next week on the podcast. We're planning to record that later this week after he gets back from the show. But for now, it's going to be me, Kent, and Moudy as we talk about a little bit about the studio, the state of the studio. Then we go into our wishful thinking for E3 this year. And then followed by a talk about our favorite role-playing games. We're all big RPG fans, as we're in the process of making an RPG. So we thought that was a good topic to have on the show this week. So we hope you enjoy, and thanks for listening. I'm Trevor Oz, as usual, and I'm joined today by the head of our studio, Kent Gamble.
Hello.
And our artist, the quintessential artiste, Moudy.
What's up?
What's up, Moudy?
Good, guys. How you guys doing?
Good. Is this your first podcast, Moudy?
No, we actually we did record one where we did like meeting when we were all like meeting the team, I think. So I did my meet the artist with Trevor. So this would be my second one. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we talked a bit about the logo in that one. So it's been a few weeks since the podcasts have started to get flowing. We're starting to get our flow out there. We had some good one-on-one talks with Kent, with Moudy, with Jack, and today we're gonna start like a kind of an almost normal podcast format, so to speak, unless we have one where we have a specific guest or something. So I wanted to start off with the state of the studio, basically to give you guys an update on what we're working on at Winterborn, at least as much as we can talk about, because we're still, again, in early development. So I'm going to throw it over to Kent, because Kent works on a whole lot of stuff.
We're behind, everything is on fire, and we're all fucked. Welcome to game development.
Exactly.
No, actually, things are going pretty well. Like Trevor said, there's not a massive amount we can really talk about, or there's not a lot of specifics we can really mention until we actually start to kind of formally announce things. But we are kind of getting out of the early tech stages of game development, and we are starting to slowly transition over into sort of actual gameplay and story-like bits. So without saying too much, it's pretty exciting. Up until this point, a lot of what we've been doing has just been sort of little tests and tech demo type things, where we've been proving things out, whether they will not work. And now we're actually starting to transition into features that we're working on, which will actually contribute to having a game. So that's pretty exciting. I think for everyone involved, now that we're actually starting to see things come online and kind of seeing features come online to match our design, that's been pretty exciting. So yeah, again, without mentioning too much, it's the exciting time before we kind of start to get into the really shitty things are causing problems area. So we'll be there soon.
We're almost to that point of making a game that we can break and then breaking it.
Exactly.
I like that.
And then crying about it. And then testing it and fixing it and then breaking it again. And, the cycle continues.
Circle of life.
They say crying is good for you sometimes, so there you go.
Game developers don't say that. They just sob quietly in the corner. They have no hope.
Right.
So that's what's going on the tech side. Moudy, how do you feel about the art you've been working on so far?
Let's see. I'm trying to dance with my words here. So let's say, but it's been going really good, and one of the things that it's almost been a lot of fun coming up with essentially working with the foundation of the story, and sort of like having a little bit of back and forth and influence from everybody, and discussing how the characters are kind of coming about. I want to say that without saying anything with like anything obvious, but I want to say that I think we're all happy with it, and also in a way that I think we can all say mutually didn't expect it to come out that way. And I think that's been like a really exciting and surprise, that it's one of the things like I didn't expect it to go, like I guess I didn't know what to expect, but it's been a really pleasant surprise in the process. And I hope you guys agree with that, because I hope it's not just me.
We all hate it, just Moudy
Yeah,
likes it. Doing everything the way Moudy wants to do it. No,
No,
actually, Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say I'll comment on that a little bit, because I've been working a lot with Moudy on that. But as people may or may not know, listening to the podcast, the fact that most of this story, most of these characters, a lot of the gameplay, everything kind of came from this tabletop RPG that we ran a while ago. So a lot of this has really been set in stone, and I think everyone on the team except Moudy actually was involved in that original tabletop game. And it's actually been a really cool thing to go back and forth with Moudy, because we've kind of had these characters in our mind for so many years. And then, obviously Moudy does all of our art, so he's been drawing up with these concepts of these characters that, we're familiar with and that we've seen in our minds, but we've never kind of seen down on paper. And he's been able to take all the information we give him and kind of add his own spin to it. And several times with several different characters, the final result that we've seen in the concept art is radically different from kind of what we originally had in our mind. But every single time, the end result that Moudy's come up with has been just amazing. He's been able to really embody these characters, which I think speaks to, how not realistic, but how kind of fleshed out these characters are, that he's able to, having never really interacted with or experienced these characters, he's able to take them, kind of distill down their personality, and then give his own artistic spin on them and make them come to life. And that has just been very exciting for me to see personally, all of these characters developed years ago, but actually seeing what they look like and giving these unique spins on them. It's been really amazing.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with you. Looking at the character designs, there are definitely some characters that I did not expect to look the way that they looked. And even upon first seeing a certain character, I was like, I never really pictured him that way. But I love the way that Moudy interpreted it, though. So I think I think Moudy brings something unique to the process that I don't know if it's just my brain can't think of it in an artistic way like he does, to where I just don't think of the character in that way. But once I see it, like, I totally understand where he's coming from in that sense.
Just to add on, and I think again that's again why I think I'm having so much fun with the process, especially because it's really like there is this really like synergetic feeling that comes with it, because it's like this, like, it's a mystery, like how's it going to turn out, but like, and so far it's been really like everything we've been doing with each other, like the feedback and this has been really responsive, and we've all been digging it. So I'm glad, and I think it's also really fun when I'm like talking to any of you guys about it. I feel like one of those I don't know if they really do it anymore, but it's like a police sketching like a suspect. It's like, so what did this person do? And like you start asking for description. It's really fun to get like how you guys can kind of just keep going. Not to say that any of them are like shady. I'm just saying.
All of our characters are just going to be like mugshots.
Mugshots, yeah.
Have you seen this man?
Yeah,
Is he
pretty
terrorizing your neighborhood?
I absolutely, once the game is done and out, Moody, I'm 100% going to make you draw up like mugshots of all the individual characters so we can release them as bonus content or something.
Yeah, dude, with was it like the bars and the heights and the little all those little details?
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be pretty great, I must admit. So anyway, I think that's a good indicator of where we're at right now in the process, and where we're going. We're starting to ramp up a little bit in our development. I know we're all excited to keep going and get to where we actually have a game that we can play.
Absolutely.
So I think at this point we can move on to talking about, as you know, if you're listening to this, E3 is this week, and well, all those great announcements happened. They were awesome because we're definitely not recording this ahead of time.
No.
This is definitely live. Microsoft great conference, guys. That's
there you go.
Bravo.
Standing. If you could see me now, I'm standing. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm
Look
floored,
for me
dude.
in the crowd. I'm waving. It's all
Yeah, you know,
lies. It's all lies.
Yeah, it's all lies. We recorded this ahead of time. I actually just wanted to talk with you guys and just see what you're excited about for E3. Moody, I want to talk to you first because Ken is actually going to E3, so we'll probably dive a little bit deeper on him. But what would you like to see at E3 this year?
To be honest, like, if we are gonna like, let me start off with I guess with more of like something that's kind of towards the RPG, which they've already released the trailer, but definitely to see more. I'm really looking forward to seeing more about the Final Fantasy VII. I mean, I'm gonna be like that. Let's just start with the obvious one. Big fan, like everyone, about Final Fantasy VII. And I've been really curious just to see what it's like in this day and age to kind of take something like Final Fantasy VII and see how that turns into a game with how they seem to be changing it, and it has to now be more like realistic looking and whatnot. So that, to be honest, is like one of the ones right now, like knee-jerk reaction. I'm really curious to see more about it.
Yeah, the Final Fantasy VII remake is one that kind of has me torn a little bit, because I mean I also was a big fan of Final Fantasy VII, and it's weird to see it as an action game, but I don't like hate that.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's just different. It takes a little bit of adjusting, I guess, mentally, for me to kind of wrap my head around it in a way. But I'm still pretty interested to see how it's gonna play.
Yeah, especially like for me the biggest question right now is when the game is sort of like a turn-based game like it originally was, and just the amount of like places you go, how do they put all that scope into now like what would be more of an action base? Like I just imagine being so massive as a game. So I'm kind of trying to figure out or just think about how would they go about handling all the locations, all the scenarios. Is it like do they cut on the edges a little bit or something? I just can't wait. I hope they show more of like gameplay and like I guess essentially more of like how the story will unfold.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested to see what more is to come of that. I think they said something about splitting it into parts. So
Yeah,
sorry.
it's supposed to be episodic, so that's probably how they handle it. I don't think they've announced like what or how it's going to be split into parts, whether it's going to kind of follow the same, maybe the way it was split into discs, something similar for the original game, but that's probably how they handle such a massive amount of data, bringing it out instead of just one game. It'll be however many they end up doing. I have no idea.
That'd be pretty cool, honestly, because in that sense, if they're able to do that. It'd be crazy if they were able to like then essentially make every disc, a massive game. But that I can only imagine that'd be like an insane task. But it'd be really cool if they did split it like the original discs. That'd be pretty nice little homage, like a little full circle effect.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So other than Final Fantasy, is there any other games that you can think of, or any games that you would like to see that have maybe been absent for a while that maybe some pie in the sky like they'll decide to bring back?
I mean, this would be such a. I mean, I know it's definitely not going to happen, but it would be. I still wish there was a chance for Silent Hills, the game, to come back. Like Guillermo del Toro comes on stage and he's like, "Guys, we made it happen." But I doubt it. That's really a pie in the sky. But
I want to see Silent Hill I want to see them reassemble the original team and get me some old school Silent Hill action, like a RE2 style remake of the first or second one.
That'd be awesome.
Dude, yeah. I mean, even that would be amazing. Anything like I just missed the franchise. I think it's like you said, it's a great franchise, and get the old team to come back. Oh.
Have you played? Sorry, totally off topic here. Have you played The Evil Within, Moudy?
Yes, I have, and I'll let you know right now. I loved it.
All right, good. I was gonna say, if you like Silent Hill, like I'm always on a crusade to get more people to check out Evil Within because I feel like it's criminally underrated because it's a fantastic game, both it and the sequel. But yeah, if you like Silent Hill, Evil Within is right up your alley. Or whoever's listening that likes Silent Hill, Evil Within is right up your alley if you have not checked it out.
Yeah, I couldn't recommend it more. Like you said, it's it truly is underrated because I try to I guess I try to pitch it to people. I'm like, dude, if you're into like survival horror games, I said this is one that I'm like it goes deep. There's a lot in there, so it's really fun.
Do you guys think we might see Evil Within 3 at E3 this year?
Ooh,
no. I would absolutely love it, but I like that's one of my kind of pie in the sky. It would be amazing if they announced it, but I can't imagine right now that's a focus. Hopefully next year, but maybe they'll surprise me.
Yeah, that would definitely be a surprise for you. Actually, I mean, based on when this comes out, we would know by now. So.
Wow, that amazing trailer was amazing. Insert game title here.
Right.
But yeah, that's Evil Within is. I haven't actually played it yet. I have
Shame.
the first.
Shame.
I have it. I just haven't.
Shame.
It's on the pile of stuff that I haven't played yet.
Are you into horror games at all, Trevor?
I kind of have to be in the right mood for it. So it really kind of just depends. Like, I really like the Resident Evil 2 remake.
Oh, yeah, dude.
But I don't know. Like, I just have to be, I guess, in the right headspace for it until I'll dive in. So I think that's why I just haven't gotten to Evil Within, because I just haven't, like, thought, like, oh, I really want to play that right now.
Yes.
But
you have to wake up and be like, I'm in a spooky mood. Oh.
I don't know if I'll ever do that.
Whatever. I do that like every third Thursday. I'm like, oh, spooky Thursday.
Spooky Thursday. Let's make that a thing.
Yeah, because of our massive audience for this, which actually we can talk about it later, Moudy, but it's bigger than we expected, so that's cool. So yeah, go us minions and fans and
play Evil Within.
Go play, yes.
Go play Evil Within.
Hashtag Spooky Thursday.
That's right, yeah.
So for me, I think, give me Splinter Cell, damn it.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I rather enjoy watching events with you and just seeing your soul being crushed over and over again when they still don't announce Splinter Cell.
Yeah. So when Kent was home over the holidays, it was the Video Game Awards, and I was really really expecting Splinter Cell to be there, and it was not. And it definitely was a very disappointing night because of it.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, we just kept watching it, and it's like, okay, there's 20 minutes left. It's got to be soon. Okay, there's 10 minutes left. It's got to be soon. Oh, it's over. Damn it.
You just want to see the 3 green lights just turn on the screen, go bam. Oh,
Dude,
you
that's
got
all I
yeah,
want.
You got to do that and hear the pew sound effect.
exactly.
That is all I want in life right now. Is just to see those 3 lights and Sam Fisher. Like, give me what I want, Ubisoft.
I think at this point it's pretty safe to say it's being worked on. So hopefully it just means they're really kind of taking the time to make sure that when it does come out, that it is, it blows us out of the water, kind of like the first one did, and just really nails stealth and just the awesome gameplay that the first one had.
Yeah. I agree with you. I mean, I'd say all the games in the series for the most part were very good. Some of them were different because they tried to go different directions, but they did a good job with all the games. So Kent, before we get to you being at E3, what would you be most excited to see?
I think for me, every year it's almost always the new or the unexpected. I love a good remake. I love seeing a sequel or another entry in the franchises that I like and play. But usually there'll be 1 or 2 games that kind of get announced that come out of nowhere that I just had no idea that they were being worked on, and they just look super amazing, and I really get excited. So I think that's really where it's going to be at for me. I think this is the first E3 of going into where I don't really have a strong idea of what's going to be announced or what's going to be shown there. So it's kind of exciting, that I don't really have a strong idea of what's going to be there. I have a lot of kind of pie in the sky, like you said, ideas of I'd love to see some things getting made or remade, but as far as things that are more likely, I don't know. So it's going to be a surprise this year.
Yeah. I think this year will be full of a lot more surprises than we think.
Wait, can I say one I just thought of, like, because I remember recently, and I know this is such a pie in the sky, but I don't know if you guys heard the rumor, but if someone were to confirm it, I would just be so happy. Is if it's truly true that
in your heart of hearts,
that this is E3, they confirmed that From Software is really working with what's his name from Game of Thrones. Dude, I will die. Like, I think that's like the most perfect match that you could think of, and it's like almost like it sounds too good to be true. But if it was truly true, oh Lord, dude.
I hope for Moody's sake that gets confirmed, so he will be super happy.
Hashtag truly true.
Truly, we're making a lot of hashtags.
I know, right?
And have hashtags for days. So Kent, you're going to E3 this year. We're obviously not ready to show anything. So why are you going to E3 this year?
I mean, really the same reason I go most years, although this year will be the first year I represent kind of Winterborn and our studio versus just being an engineer for another studio. But there's a couple different reasons. So the first one is just as a gamer, it's really exciting to go and see and or play a lot of new stuff. I've always been really impressed by everyone that does a booth, like kind of what they do and the big kind of extravaganza of seeing all these booths and all this craziness that's going on. It's a really kind of exciting thing to go and experience. I see a lot of friends there, which is nice. A lot of colleagues, a lot of ex-coworkers that I haven't seen in a while. So it's nice to kind of meet up with all of those people and catch up because it's a big industry and it's also a really small industry. So that's really nice to catch up with old friends, see what they're working on, talk about some different things. And then the third kind of less interesting for most people, but pretty important for me and the team is they do a pretty wide variety of technology showcasings there. So everything from there's not really new game engines per se that come out all that often, but like components that you can add into game engines or things that should make your life easier, new backend technologies, things like that. So being able to see kind of what's on the horizon and evaluate whether or not it might help us here at Winterborn going forward and making the game is it's pretty great to see and check out firsthand versus just reading online about something that may or may not actually be helpful.
That makes a lot of sense. What do you expect? Do you expect to see anything on new hardware and stuff like that, or you think that'll be more next year?
It's tough to say. Personally, I think we'll probably not see, if we see anything, it will be a exceedingly kind of vague teaser trailer. But I don't think we'll see a whole lot of new hardware. Like, I don't really have any idea, but I wouldn't expect them to be announced this year because I don't want to say no way because, of course, I'd end up being proven wrong. But it seems like this year is not the year to bring out new hardware. The current gen is not that far along. And if they did kind of the big announcements for any of these consoles and then they didn't come out until next year, I feel like you would lose a lot of steam. So my prediction would be next year when we start to see kind of the big new console information drops, but I guess you never know.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you there. I think we'll see a lot of that stuff next year. Sony's been showing off a little bit of at least like tech demos for the next PlayStation, which is kind of out of character for them. For sure, which is interesting. But yeah, I think we'll see more of that stuff next year. But I mean, honestly, I'm excited to see what they're going to announce this year, what we're going to see.
Yeah,
just like
I'm really hoping that. I think last year it was pretty exciting. Actually, I don't think it was E3. I think it was one of the Insider Xbox events. I can't remember, but when they announced the acquisition of all of those new studios, I doubt we'll see what all of them are working on, but I would really be excited to see what one or maybe two of them are working on, because I think all of them were pretty great studios and clever, acquisitions, but it's exciting to see what those studios are going to be capable of when having the backing and the resources of a huge company like Microsoft. So that'll be pretty exciting to see. Hopefully at least one will kind of be announced what they're working on.
Yeah. And just to me, the part that's also alluring about that is just the potential that, like, it may not happen, but it just might, that we may see the potentially, birth of a new icon in gaming, and that's just the way I like to think of it. It's like, if Halo was the first guy, when Halo made their first game, then like maybe someone from these new studios will create like the new one, the new generation of that. So,
yeah,
we never, who knows? That's the part that gets me like a little bit, like I get goosebumps thinking like, ooh, we might just get something.
That's the magic of E3 is kind of waiting for that brand new exciting announcement that no one was expecting, and then everyone just loses their mind over it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'll be watching. And I'll be probably tweeting about it on both my account and the Winterborn account. So,
okay. I was gonna say, can I ask you guys a question about E3? I just wanted to get your thoughts on it, because like this is the one that Sony said they're not gonna partake in, right?
Yes.
Do you think, like, in sense of like showmanship from the other people, like how do you think that's gonna affect the atmosphere? You just think it's gonna be like, all right, or like, I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, from going from past years, I don't think it'll matter all that much. Like somebody will move. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's Square Enix actually that took their old spot.
Mm.
So I mean, someone will be there showing something exciting. Like it's a little disappointing, I think, because I mean, this is just personal opinion, but I really like the kind of big show that happens. Like I like seeing the Sony booth, the Microsoft booth, the Nintendo booth. It was always really exciting to go and see. Like I understand their decisions to kind of do their own thing, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a little disappointing. But that said, that's because I was there. I mean, for I don't know, 25 years or however long it was before I attended my first E3. Like I think it's probably makes sense for the consumers because there's less information overload if the big announcements are kind of staggered instead of all hitting at once. But as someone who actually goes to the show floor, it's nice to be there and see everything happening all at once. It's kind of like oh wow, look how exciting and big and crazy our industry is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got to think with a bunch of the studios that Microsoft did acquire and announce last year that we're gonna come across quite a few RPGs coming out this year. And that's where
Good
we're
segue,
going
Trevor.
to plot into our topic of the week, which we're going to talk about our own personal favorite role playing games. I figure, firstly, Jack Steele didn't know whether he was going to be able to join us today or not. He was unable to do so, but I wanted to mention his favorites because they're all games that I haven't really played. I've played a little bit of Shining Force, which he mentions, but he also mentioned Legend of Dragoon, Skies of Arcadia, and Grandia 2. Have either of you played any of those?
I actually haven't played Shining Force, Sky Acadia, or Grandia 2, but I definitely played Legend of Dragoon. That's a childhood favorite of mine.
You didn't have a Dreamcast, did you, Moudy?
I did not, unfortunately.
Grandia 2 and Skies are both Dreamcast.
Yeah, I always wanted one though. I was always like let's go see a friend with a Dreamcast.
Yeah, I mean, good on Jack. Those are all really great suggestions. Shining Force, it's tough to say exactly which one, but as a series is one of my favorite games of all time. It actually is on my favorite RPGs list. So, and there are quite a few elements of that game as far as game design that are going to manifest themselves in our upcoming title. So love Shining Force. Good stuff. There's something I'd like to see at E3. I want to see a new Skies of Arcadia game. It's kind of a niche fan favorite out there. Really kind of unique world, and I loved the art style of it, and it was really solid gameplay, just all around a really good RPG that I think people have been wanting something new in that universe for a long time, and that would be exciting to see something new in that universe.
And we're kind of seeing a little bit of a resurgence of RPGs in a sense. We're seeing games that are doing well, like say on the Project Octopath Traveler did on the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
So we're starting to see a little bit of that sort of thing come back, which is always nice to see, and maybe that'll lead the way for maybe a remake or someone doing sequels to some of these games.
Yeah, and also I actually haven't played yet, but I've been meaning to because my brothers actually have it, and I really want to play it. But the latest Dragon Quest, it's really amazing how they the way they updated, yet they kept literally to the very traditional in the sense of the way the menus are, the way the game is. Apparently, they dubbed it when they brought it here to the States. But if you play in the original Japanese, because the original game never has any voices, in the Japanese version there is no voices. So I found that so fascinating. I said, like, I love the idea that, like, they're really sticking to their guns and, like, this is what made them who they are, and they just kept with it, but they just put it with the, visuals that are of this generation. So that's one I haven't played, but I'm gonna give it a little shout out right now because I really want to try it.
I like that. That's cool. I was not aware of that. I used to be really big into the Dragon Quest games back when I think it was Dragon Warrior. I think the U.S. name for it, the original one on the Nintendo, up through I think maybe 4 or so I played, and I really loved those games. And I kind of fell out of them, not because they stopped being good, but I think because I had more choice and less time. But yeah, I've always really liked those games, so I'm glad to see they're still around, and it sounds like they're still doing pretty cool things with it.
hmm And I mean, to see a Akira Toriyama's like art style being fully realized in 3D is always fun for me. As long as, but I feel like anyone who's a big fan of him, like they do such a great job of like he just has a way of drawing things, even though they're cute. They can be like really like buff and like massive sometimes. It's kind of funny how he's able to play with those like designs. It's
I mean,
yeah.
he's no Moody Hamo, but who is?
Oh, dude, no, dude, I couldn't even, dude.
So, a couple games I'm a bit more familiar with. I want to also mention our music man, Boo, had a couple of his picks, which were Fable and Jade Empire. Fable, I feel like I personally never gave a chance. But that was because I feel like I got Molyneuxed.
Is that an official term?
Yeah, I was like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, reading about it like in official Xbox magazine, it just wasn't like it wasn't what he promised it to be, which is very famous for him to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I ever really gave it the chance that it probably deserves. It's probably a much better game than I remember.
Yeah,
But,
I always really liked Fable. I think charming is like one of the biggest ways I would describe it. Like the game is really fun, and it's just got it really nailed its own kind of world and theme and feel. I mean, you're right. There were ridiculous things that were promised way back when for the original that of course never manifested, because how could technology have possibly hoped to deal with it at that time? But I always thought they were really fun games. They were never anything that like how do I want to describe it? It was never like one of those RPGs like super extreme hardcore like white knuckle, I can barely beat this battle, types of games that I often like. But I thought it was really fun to play through. I got so distracted by some of the goofy stuff you could do in there, like buying houses. I spent so much time being a slumlord in that game. But yeah, I mean, running around kicking chickens, getting titles like Chicken Chaser. It was fun. It was a charming game to play, and there's a lot of rumors about it kind of being brought back, and I just hope that whoever ends up kind of helming that is able to make sure it keeps its distinct identity now that Lionhead isn't around anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah, I one of the things I do remember, because I think I played number 2 actually, but one of the things I did love was, even though they had the story, they did have a really good amount of like things you could sort of just kind of have fun with, like when it comes to buying out. So just kind of go on these side little quests for yourself, and it's just like it's almost like a gameplay experience that you can just kind of keep doing it, even though it's not necessary to the story. And just the one that if I remember correctly, you can like essentially like do evil things and you just go to a church, right? And you can like pay for it to be good again. I love doing that. I thought that was like hilarious.
Buy your way to redemption.
Exactly.
Yeah, for me, it's always been like the RPG or the GTA of RPGs, where it's like I couldn't care less about the stories. Honestly, like the main story, whatever. But it's just I just love being in the world and running around and doing whatever I feel like doing at the time.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Another one that he mentioned was Jade Empire, which I it's I let me just preface this with I love BioWare, but I never got too into Jade Empire. I don't know. I think I was more a fan of the combat and like Knights of the Old Republic. That it kind of threw me off a bit when Jade Empire came out.
I'm actually the exact same. I do remember playing it back. I think back when it came out was around the time that Boo was living at my house. Um, I absolutely loved the kind of theme and like the mythology behind it, but the combat just killed it for me. I just could not really get into the game. And I would actually, I'm the same with you. Like BioWare is awesome. I love their games. I would like to see them revisit that world, but I would like to see them use kind of their more standard BioWare-esque combat apply to there, and I think you have a great game.
Like their combat that's like it's turn-based but not turn-based, like the way they kind of have it. I think that works best for them. It works I think it works well, especially in Knights of the Old Republic and Dragon Age, for sure, or Baldur's Gate. If you go back a little bit further, they were always really good with doing real-time turn-based action. I guess is the where it's I don't even know how to describe it.
Real-time turn-based.
Yeah, I think that sounds right.
I mean, it's the thing that it makes you feel like you're in control and you're doing stuff like at that moment, but it's still taking its turn with it. So it's. But yeah, that's the BioWare classic stuff that I would like to see. But yeah, Jade Empire, it's one of those where I think I actually was thinking about revisiting it maybe just because I would like to see actually how the story in that went. Because I did like the setting and everything. So
I can't remember if that's one of the ones available on backwards compatibility or not.
I do believe it is actually. Nice. So I thought about just picking that up. But anyway, Moudy, what about you? What you got?
I've been trying to think of like which ones to really pick, but I'm gonna just try to make a good variety here. So I'm just gonna say I guess 3, which is like I'll start with I'm actually like a really big fan of. I love my turn-based, but I'm also being a person that I think likes Twitch. I call them Twitch games, not necessarily as in you watch them on Twitch, but they're very much about response time and acting quick too. And then the mixture of putting like RPG elements in, like, which is my segue to say I really love the Mass Effect trilogy games, and I know it's not a traditional RPG, but I feel like that was one of the first times. Counts, right? Good.
Definitely, yeah.
And that was actually my first time, I think, honestly, experiencing a games that had like good and bad. Well, not just good and bad, but like then the relationships. And I remember being like, "Whoa, this is a thing you can do in a game." I was like, "Are you serious?" And just the idea that you really felt like you were having like as Shepard, you felt like you were negotiating the fate of the world. And obviously, you can say there's like only a variety of sets, but it truly was immersive in the fact that I'm like how you level up and choose your tree of like what your skills are. I felt like that was like my first experience being like, oh, the narrative is in a way the same thing. You're really choosing that path. And I remember that feeling so just engrossing and exciting that I was like, I've never felt like this game, like played a game like this, Did you have you guys played that game? I'm sure you have, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I love them. No, I mean you're right. It's one. I mean everything you said. Plus, I want to say that generally speaking, I've never gotten into science fiction RPGs nearly as much as I have into fantasy RPGs. Just I don't know why, because I love sci-fi just as much as I love fantasy, but it never quite like clicked as well for me as the fantasy did. But I think aside from the early Shadowrun games are about the only other one I can think of that has that kind of like sci-fi cyberpunk aspect I got into. But Mass Effect was that one that's like the gold standard for sci-fi RPGs that was just like, this is fantastic and I love it and want to play all day.
Yeah, and I love like how they really, I wouldn't use, I guess the word's not, it's not punished, but you could be punished on behavior at certain points where like it's the whole thing of you really could control whether you want like people to die or not die. And I just remember feeling it when you like, I remember my first time I played without really having any expectation or strategies, being like, all right, I'm just gonna, it's a game, so I was really experimenting with all decisions. And I remember my first playthrough, I never actually stuck too well with being good or bad. And I just remember ending up being able to not essentially like keep certain people from like dying. And man, it rocked me, dude. I was like, oh my god. I was like, I'm a failure.
I think you're allowed to say I think Mass Effect 1, assuming that you're talking about Rex. I think that's spoiler-free territory at this point, considering
Right.
it's however many years old.
Well then, yes. As you guys know, there you go.
Somebody's gonna bitch about me spoiling Rex's death now.
And someone's gonna
but
be angry
he might
that I
not have
killed
died.
him.
He didn't for me. He survived.
Yeah. He might not. It depends on what how you play the game.
Moody, you gotta get good.
I got to.
But that was one of the great things about Mass Effect, and they did a great job of building the characters to where if those characters died, you actually cared. You didn't want to see them die. And that's something that BioWare for most of their games have always been good at, is making you actually care about your companions in arms. And
Yeah, you're right there, because that's one of the few games that I didn't like. Generally speaking, when characters die, if you have a choice between characters dying, not dying, whatever, 90% of the time, all I'm doing is like, there's just two stats blobs, right? It's like, oh, I need a mage, so I don't want this mage to die. Whereas BioWare, actually, I'm like, oh, these are people, and I don't want this person to die.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, and I mean that's a big difference than say like Fire Emblem, where like you said, it's a mage dies. I need that. I'm gonna reload my save and make sure that doesn't happen again. But yeah. But I any others that you can think of, Moody?
If just I feel like just to say, because I don't think we've touched on it yet, but in general, I would just say the Final Fantasy series is definitely a big one for me. Final Fantasy VII, since we talked about it, wasn't actually my first one, but it was my first exposure to it. But I think I remember that was during the time when I can't remember how old I was, but like I just remember loving these games. But I guess I did not have my brain wasn't grown enough to like play them, because I just kept dying. I was like, I love this game, but dude, I cannot figure this out. I had to come back to them later, and the first game I actually played and was able to actually beat in the Final Fantasy series game was Final Fantasy X. And I feel like that's the one that I feel like I hear most people are really torn about, but I'm definitely on the side that I really enjoyed that game, especially for the pursuit of like, that was their first time trying to make all the cutscenes, essentially give all the characters voices. And to be honest, truly to me, sometimes when I look at that game, I'm like, I just love the aesthetic. It was so unique. And again, I think they did a really good job of like, they're always really good with the game mechanics and the lore, but then for me to like even be attached to the characters, and I know that it's quite popular that there's some interesting dialogue said there, but to me, in the end, I actually find that like it's kind of like, it felt to me like it's when your friend's talking to you. Like, we were like, okay, we might be a little bit corny here, but I was like appreciating it for what it was,
Yeah, I actually agree with you. I actually enjoyed Final Fantasy X a lot. But I think Final Fantasy as a series is definitely one of those like that you have to throw into any favorite RPG category.
Yeah, very much.
Seven was my kind of first one that I really got into when I was younger. I want to say I was like maybe 12 when that came out, around 12 when that came out, and that's like before that I was like really into like mostly like stuff like Mario and Sonic and stuff. So like it was kind of my first thing where I was like, oh wow, this is something different. And I just remember like staying up like on the weekends from school and just staying up like all night playing Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, no, that's like yeah. But I finally played the game now, and like, dude, that game is, I find it still like it's kind of amazing to me. It sounds so sad, but like it's like I guess for me it's a way of saying like even though it's like just a bunch of it's like because they really are literally very much simple polygons and stuff, but man, that game like in the moments it gets you, like it's supposed to make you feel sad or make you feel excited. It's like they really get you there, and I think it's such a well realized world, like
Yeah, I think in general most of the Final Fantasies have done a good job of building their worlds and being different from the last as
Yeah.
well. Because if you look at all like of the PlayStation years with 7, 8, and 9, all of them are different while still having like that core like Final Fantasy gameplay. But
Mhm.
all of them are definitely feel like they're in different worlds. Play slightly different enough to feel new. Um, and are also very very divisive among fans of which one is the best.
I know, right? But I feel like for Square Enix and them, I'm like, that's a good problem. Like,
Yeah,
like when people are just literally debating left and right which one of your games is the best game. I'm like, yeah, I guess that's probably not a bad spot. Oh, and one thing just as like, it's not really like I want to say as an artist, but it's just one of the things I just remember finding amazing was in Sephiroth's design. I just remember before him, I used to say that I don't know what they're called, but like, if you're like usually like I feel like the general image you would think of is like when you're farming, you have like the blue jeans with like the overalls that kind of attach from the top. What are
yeah,
those? Is that just what that's called?
just like a farmer look.
Yeah, like the farmer overalls, like that.
Yeah,
I thought that you like that was impossible to be used as like I'm gonna make the coolest character and he's gonna wear this. And I was like, I was blown away when I found out if you look at Sephiroth, he actually wears like a black overall, if I remember correctly. And I was just like, oh man, they figured it out, dude. I thought it was like the most impossible thing to do. And they're like, nah, we're gonna make this look cool. I was like, dude, you did. If you ever look at him under his like little jacket, he's got like a farmer's overall made out of leather. So I was just like, dude, that's pretty legit, I guess. I take it. I take
never
it back.
really thought about that.
It's where they spent most of the development money and years working on it. They're like, we have to make this look cool. We have to do it.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, I'll say that he definitely he decided like his is not just like straight down. He's got like X's on his, but I'm like, dude, it's a farmer's overall. I'm like, man, and he makes it work. I was like, all right.
So Kat, you got any that you wanted to mention?
A couple of them have already been mentioned for me. Like Shining Force is pretty high up there. Obviously, I like the Final Fantasy. I like the earlier Final Fantasies, like the Super Nintendo era ones were always my go-tos. But they're all solid games, really enjoyable. Final Fantasy Tactics, I'll specifically say from a tactical standpoint, like that and Shining Force are probably some of my favorite games of all time, RPG or otherwise. And then I think the only one that really hasn't been mentioned at all that I want to say that was just amazing for me was Fallout 2. And that will always be, I think, my favorite Fallout game. Just the world, the gameplay, like all the choices, some of the goofy stuff that could happen in the random encounters, like just everything about it was mind-blowing. And I think that was like my first big PC RPG that I can ever really remember, because prior to that it was mostly like StarCraft and Warcraft for me. I think that was prior to me playing Ultima as well. But yeah, that's always going to be one that's close to my heart, Fallout 2. But yeah, pretty much anything. And it's really hard for there to be an RPG that I don't like, so 'cause I just love the strategy behind them.
Mhm.
Like I love kind of, especially on the difficult ones. Like the first Dragon Age is a great example. I absolutely loved that game because
Yeah, I did too.
it was difficult even on its normal modes, and on like the hardcore modes it was really difficult. But like stopping the battle and having to plan out kind of every little aspect of how to defeat your enemy was always really cool. I really enjoyed that aspect of the game. So anything with really good strategy and interesting characters, I'm pretty much there.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Yeah. Amen, bro. Amen.
And to throw out I mean, my favorite RPG is Knights of the Old Republic, the first one, and I just like it's just the character and the stories, all put together in like that box that BioWare had going for a long time, just got me, and that twist that game had.
Yeah, pretty amazing.
Yeah, like that. Did not see it coming. But yeah, they did an awesome job with that game. And then the other series that I don't think we've mentioned that I just want to mention is Elder Scrolls.
Oh yeah.
Because we haven't talked about that at all, but like, I have tried so hard to get into I tried so hard to get into Morrowind.
The best game ever.
It was just like, because I know you had like notebooks.
Yeah, I did. Because it didn't keep track of quests and stuff like that. It was like, go talk to this guy in, this city, and you just had to jot a note down. Okay, I will do that.
Yeah, so like, it's one of those that I've always thought about going back to, but I just never have.
I can see it being tough to go back to because there are a lot of like convenience features that you get anymore that it certainly does not have.
Yeah, for sure. But I more got into Oblivion, and then I super got into Skyrim, which is easy, and then now I'm still hopelessly addicted to Elder Scrolls Online. So
I know. I see your Xbox status still.
And it's mostly Elder Scrolls. So ESO's a good game, everybody. Go give it a chance.
Played for a solid 2 years, I think, which is pretty good. I think most MMOs, I can't really ever get past a year before I'm like done with it. I think ESO gave me at least maybe even 3 years pretty solid play until I was just like, all right, I'm good.
Yeah, I mean,
right around the time you started playing, if I recall.
Oh. Yeah, it was.
Maybe something is put.
No, I mean, for me, ESO is kind of like the first MMO that I really got into, because most of them I lose interest after like a couple weeks. Honestly, I've tried to get into so many other ones, but ESO is the one that hooked me. So. Anyway, is there any others that anybody would like to mention?
I didn't mention it before just because, kind of like the same thing with Skyrim where it's like everyone and their mother has played it, but Witcher 3 was pretty pretty mind-blowing, but like everyone already knows that it's mind-blowing, so I don't think I have anything to say that hasn't already been said about it.
Yeah, I love The Witcher 3.
But just thumbs up for it. You're the man, Geralt. I almost named my second dog Geralt, actually.
There you go. He just all of a sudden, like when you named him that, he just has that awesome hair. He's got these like glowing eyes, and he's just like he'll like sniff something and be like, "This must be something." Like he does that. He knows what it's all about.
And he's really into playing Gwent.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, I think we got to talk about a lot of RPGs here, and I think that that'll wrap us up for this week. If you guys out there have a favorite RPG that you think we missed, feel free to email us at social media at winterborngames.com, and maybe we'll read them on a future episode. And
Only
other than
that, picks. Otherwise, we'll laugh at you.
It's true. We will. But anyway, Kent, Moudy, thank you guys for being on this week.
Yeah, thanks for having us, man.
Yeah, man.
And we will see you next time.